Hello and welcome to a Bonzoleum video. I know on the surface this might seem like a cheap trick, dear Rick Beato, but here's the thing. As you know from my channel, if you're familiar with the Bonzoleum channel, I often talk about the concept of time, music time. The grid versus the non-grid. Speeding up a little, slowing down a little, the whole mood. Remember, the control of time, a little faster, a little slower, is part of our artistic palette, which I've always maintained now has been sort of by default sort of put on hold because everybody seems to be just so concentrated on the grid or a BPM for the entire tune. Anyway, I put Dear Rick Beato in here because he has talked about what I'm talking about, but also specifically had the John Bonham, what would John Bonham sound like if he were quantized? Now, I had said this in another video or two before, because that video I think is 2 years old that Rick Beato put out. But I think a better comparison would have been not just the drums only, because most people in the world who would watch the video to compare, not necessarily all of them are drummers. And even if they are, not a lot of them even heard the drums only version before, or even might, in a bigger picture, be able to tell the difference between just the drums only. The better comparison would be the entire song, meaning including the melodic structure, the vocals, the guitars. Plus two, how those are all out there separate too, right? So I know there's the bass only, and there's the guitar only, but actually another off that same record, another good comparison too would be Heartbreaker, because Bonham brings the tempo down so much in the first verse. Anyway, so I would just ask Rick Beato, please, if you could redo the Whole Lot of Love, but do it with everything. So I think it's an easier comparison if you say, okay, here's Whole Lot of Love, the song with everything, the vocals, how most people have heard the song their whole life or since they've been listening to Led Zeppelin or the radio, to what it would sound like if it were quantized in its entirety, right? The whole thing, not just the drum track. But two, just a quick aside, try Heartbreaker. That might be better. Well, in any case. So, Rick Beato, thank you. If somebody knows Rick Beato, if Rick Beato happens to see this, I really genuinely think it's a really good idea. And I also would like to, another example would be Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody, almost a classical piece. Is this the real? Oh, it's not like it's like, is this the whatever they say? It would be a great thing to compare. I think that because most people too could probably identify, believe it or not, with Bohemian Rhapsody out of a larger group of people to make the comparison. But yeah, so what I would say is it's great if you do Whole Lot of Love again. Heartbreaker would be going too, but I think Bohemian Rhapsody actually is a universally probably, I think, a prime example of how to see the difference between how Bohemian Rhapsody, the studio recording, stands right now as is, done freehand by the genius queen and the late Freddie Mercury, versus if it were quantized. That's all I'm saying. So that was it. I just want to put the Rick Beato part on the front. There it was. I'm going to talk a little bit more about like the click and perfect time. As I've said before, the concept of perfect time in music is a relatively new phenomenon. Now, back in the 70s and 80s, when these machines first came out, like the Fairlights and the CMIs and stuff, those essentially were just very large, expensive samplers, right? And you'd put stuff to a grid on there. You can see old footage of Stuart Copeland got his hands on one in the mid 80s, and he was Peter Gabriel, a lot of people. And so essentially, like, a lot of the track in those days that you could consider even in the 80s, early, mid, late, as we went on, as perfect time. But the guitar that would be thrown over the top on a tape machine, or the vocal, or a bass, or another part, or a percussive part, if it wasn't pre-sampled, would be manual. So there was a combination of sort of like perfect this, but still manual on top of it. So it's not as perfect as the comparison of nowadays with computers and how we can quantize stuff straight up beat-wise, guitar-wise, and everything-wise. The best way I describe it, even though it's not entirely maybe the best metaphor or comparison, is if, let's say, the world was filled with painters. Let's say we all painted. Some of us were expressionists, some of us were impressionists, some of us were whateverists. But if we all somehow we're just told from the time we were little to when we were done with our painting to flick a little switch called smoothing. And then everyone then would show each other their painting with the smoothing. It's not the best comparison, but what I'm saying with music is, whether it's performed live or recorded or whatever, the musicians put a fingerprint on it. You remember back in the day, in the first few seconds you can tell a Police song. In the first few seconds you can tell a Rush song. In the first few seconds you tell a Journey song. In the first few seconds you tell a Zeppelin song. These are fingerprints that were put on not just necessarily the tonality. Like an argument can be made that nowadays with a lot of the machinery, the guitar sounds and everything have become homogenized. You can say that's part of what maybe has made things harder to identify because everyone's sort of using a lot more of the same sounds, which is true. But also too, that is also control of the time and the certain personality of playing. So my point is, what it boils down to, I'm absolutely not saying, I'm not one of these people that says, oh, the click track is bad, forget about it. Of course, there's a fair amount of people out there that don't like a click track because they can't really play with one. I think I do a pretty good job of playing to one. But the point is I just know there's a lot of younger people, or just people if they're new into music, even if they're 60 years old, that might go into a studio and the engineer or the producer might say to them, okay, well, what BPM is your song at? It shouldn't be... The first thing, it should be optional whether you want to put your song on a grid or not. Part of the thing is when you play in the real world, you play freehand. Like if the electricity went by the wayside and suddenly we're in the Stone Age, everyone would be going freehand. They'd be like, right? They would. They'd be boom, bang, boom, boom, bang. You know, they'd be, everything literally would be freehand. It would be 97, 98, 99% of perfect. As you approach perfection, it sounds great, but that's the human element, is approaching perfection. But not the snap of going from 99.87 to 100 perfect binary perfect. It goes, mediocre isn't the word, it just goes... it goes non-human. When it goes to beats, certain people play ahead of the beat, certain people play behind. If we were all sitting around a campfire, all 6.7 billion of us on the planet, let's say there's a massive campfire, we're all sitting around, everybody claps, right? You can even do it with a group of 10 people. Well, you'll hear some people that will consistently clap ahead of the beat, and other people that will clap behind, other people that will clap right on. You hear that when at a concert, you hear like, it doesn't go, when everyone's clapping in a concert or on records where it's not quantized, you'll hear, right? Everybody, again, here we have Queen's, We Will Rock You. We Are the Champions. Well, that are some people who are ahead, some people who are right on, some who are behind. Or people who are ahead, on, and behind, right? There's a human element there. And I think that people might argue, well, for maybe people my age or 10 years younger than me and above, who are more used to hearing music freehand, that wasn't just, if you want to make it simple, wasn't quantized, wasn't turned into perfect time, perfect pitch, perfect everything. I do think that younger people would prefer the non-quantized, at least in a larger picture of a sample of things if you did some statistical analysis. In any case, there's no doubt that certain art forms of music came about because of, like, people, certain styles and stuff. I mean, they do use Autotune as an instrument. I mean, that's, not what I'm saying. I mean, you can do that. That is an effect, right? I'm just saying to people first getting into music, or when you're going to do your art in music, the limitation of right off the bat, this pre-condition that, okay, well, of course it's going to be in perfect time on the grid. What's your BPM? Don't do that. Okay, don't. You can if you elect to. And don't get me wrong, it's still great to practice to a metronome, especially in drums. Sometimes, I might rush fills or drag fills, or, it is great when you learn. A lot of the younger drummers or the modern drummers these days, the style has changed so much. It is very based on a grid. Everything is really based on a, drummers, it is a great tool to practice those. They'll say, we go for 60 beats per minute, practice the boom, boom, gum, boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, gum, ding. and then speed it up, and that's and it sounds good. I mean, it sounds technically perfect. Sounds great. I wish I could do 10% of the things modern drummers do with those cool little fills and stuff. For me, I am ADD. I wouldn't say I'm quite ADHD, but I am ADD, and I find it very hard for me to spend any considerable amount of time working on stuff like that. After about 2 or 3 minutes, I just want to start playing Back in New York City by Genesis. Anyway, that's the video. More videos coming with my drums. Remember, I have my juicy Ludwig New Sonics here. Here I have my Peisty 502 plus Crash. I'm telling you, Peisty, that Peisty sonic texture should be brought back. You should still fool around with it. Here I have my Peisty PST7 18-inch thin Crash. Here I have a Zildjian. Believe it or not, this is a 20-inch Zildjian. What the hell? What are they called? The all-purpose, but ZMAC. Okay, this is kind of a nice 20-inch ZMAC, which is neat. It's V20. I don't have my 602 up here, but I do have that Zildjian. Anyway, and of course, here's a nice beefy 6.5 by 14 Superphonic, which I installed the tone control on because Ludwig doesn't put those on anymore. It'd be nice if they did. I think they could go back to just putting on the tone control. Let people take them out or whatever. So, thank you for watching my videos. If you've stuck around this long, don't forget I think I now have 1,002 videos. Yes, correct. I do think I have over 1,000 videos. So this is maybe the 100th or 1,002nd. Again, I'm titling it Dear Rick Beato. I know it. I don't mean for that to sound exploitative, or I just really, to tell you the truth, I do think my best chances of Rick Beato seeing this video are if I had titled it Dear Rick Beato or put Rick Beato in the title. You know what I mean? So there it is. So more videos on the way. I'm going to get back into doing some drum covers, Zeppelin and not, but the thing I got to be careful of is my hearing. When I play the drums, I need it pretty loud in my headphones to play along to. I have a new tune that I wrote, the Terry Keating Greatest Hits album from 11 years ago. I have a follow-up song, a single, which will be coming out soon, written by me. And I had the Ty Vera sing on it, because Ty has great vocal cords. I do not. So that'll be coming down the pipeline very soon. So again, don't forget about Bonhamology with George Flutis. He's putting out tons of stuff. He's putting a video out in 2 days. Today's Friday, the 18th, I think. He's putting a video out, I think, on Sunday, which is the 20th, where he plays along to like almost a 3-hour Zeppelin show. You got to understand the skill required to do that. Not just the stamina or the familiarity with the fills or the technique, but also to even play along with the recording. It's very difficult to do that. Don't forget about PFOZ, to which George is a part of, as is Ty Vera. People's Front of Zeppelin here on YouTube. My friend Ryan at Vintage Drummer. Bonham also waltzes here on YouTube. You have DM190, Drummerman 190. You have the Buddhist Biohackers. You have Rick Beato. Not that he needs any help. Rick Beato, if I'm not mistaken, has 2.74 million subscribers. Okay? If each subscriber of Rick Beato gave him $1,000, he would have $2.74 billion. Anyway, so that's it. Hopefully Rick Beato will see this and would consider maybe revisiting his what if John Bonham / Led Zeppelin or any old school band was quantized and got into songs I put out there. A whole lot of love with the music, not just the drums. Heartbreaker would be going to, and also I think a great one would be Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. So more videos on the way very soon. Have a good weekend. Hopefully, maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I might even do a quick go live this weekend. Okay. Thanks for watching the Bonzoleum channel. I'm Terry Keating, your host. Just sent a couple t-shirts off to Peisty. I have my marketing campaign I've had for Peisty for 15 years that I finally got around to actually making a move on. So, God love them. God love you for watching. I really appreciate you watching the video. If you've subscribed, that's terrific. I really love drumming and sharing with drummers. So that's it. I'm now going to wrap it up. This is the Irish goodbye. If you can't tell, I am Irish. Till next time, see you soon.